all about how we can legally protect your business and yourself, and also because of that, be able to protect your marriage, your family, and your purpose along the way. So right now, that action step, the biggest takeaway is you want to be able to block out focused time for marriage, family, and business separately. You need to be able to show up fully in each conversations with your spouse, and you need to set clear expectations and clear communications so that you can have that intentional investment in your marriage that's going to lead to that marriage progressing intentionally like you want them to do. Hello and welcome to the Superhuman Entrepreneur Podcast. My name is Dr. J, and I am so glad to be talking to you today about our part 2 of our interview that we had with Brian Hiatt. So if you haven't listened to that one's very important. It's on the topic that, of course, most entrepreneurs do not like to think about. It was the legal side of things. So if you haven't listened to that one already, full of great stuff, we're going to jump into some action items here as we go through that on this podcast. And Brian is a friend of mine. He's helped me with getting my businesses started. And really, it's all about how we can legally protect your business and yourself. And also, because of that, be able to protect your marriage, your family, and your purpose along the way. So we want to talk about the 5 biggest takeaways that I had from that interview, the 5 things that every serious entrepreneur needs if they do want to build a business that actually creates more freedom and creates more chaos. So lesson number 1 is we talked about, and these are not just legal, we talked about, of course, as always on the podcast here, we talked about, the business side of things, but then also how that bleeds over into our personal life and into our families, into our marriages and stuff. And so lesson number 1 that we talked about was about being present. And that's more important than being perfect. And so there's really no true balance. It's just a constant adjustment, a constant focus, like a ballerina of staying upright in what you're doing. So right now, that action step, the biggest takeaway is you want to be able to block out focused time for marriage, family, and business separately. And you need to be able to show up fully in each. I know Brent, we talked about, the statistics for entrepreneurs that get married and divorced, and then lawyers and doctors who end up getting divorced as well. And he talked about how he had that firm goal to never end up being divorced. And that's so important. And to do that, you have to be able to dedicate and block that time to be able to make it separately, which goes right into our second biggest takeaway is that marriage, for lack of a better term, is really a business partnership. But even more important, obviously, than that, the same way that you are going to approach, your operating agreement in your business setup, you need to have similar conversations with your spouse, and you need to set clear expectations and clear communications so that you can have that intentional investment in your marriage that's going to lead to that marriage progressing intentionally like you want them to do. So these conversations are tough. Oftentimes we just think these things are just going to happen automatically and that we don't need to worry about them. But really, you need to set aside, just like you do in your business, set a time for check-ins, whether it's weekly or at least monthly, time to connect and align and grow with your spouse, and to just discuss your goals. Make sure you're on the same page. Make sure that she's happy, that you're happy, that the kids are happy, that all the basics are being taken care of. And then from there, that's where you can really flourish and thrive in your marriage. And so you need to be setting aside the time and dedicating that, whether it's a date night or whether it's a set aside time on Sunday afternoons after church or whatever it is, that you are dedicating that time to your spouse, that you can make sure that they feel heard and make sure that you know what they're thinking, what's bothering them, what the stresses are that they're experiencing, so that you can do what you can to be able to fix that and at least support them along that process, because we might not be able to take away all those stresses. I mean, sometimes you're the stress, but we can then do what we need to do to be able to improve from that. Hey, Dr. J here. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and like the information that we're providing, be sure to subscribe and leave a review and like the podcast, because it helps us to be able to expand our reach to find other entrepreneurs. Your support helps us to reach other entrepreneurs and help us to help them truly unlock their superhuman potential and make the world a better place. And number 3, we're getting into more legal side of things, of course, is you need to make sure that you set up the right legal foundations for your business. And we talked about this somewhere in the process. A lot of times we just jump into things and we don't get moving like we need to as far as the legal side of things. We just start operating our business because we're good at doing something, whether it's like on the medical side of things or fixing an AC unit or being a lawyer. We just kind of jump in. But there are some key legal must-haves that you must have if you're going to be able to protect yourself before something negative happens. And so first one, of course, is you need to set up your LLC or your corporation. You need to set up your operating agreements. You need to set up your clear operating and client contracts. You need to protect your intellectual property. We had a lot of discussion on that, so be sure to go back and to learn more about the specifics with trademarks or copyrights or that different intellectual property of how you do things, your secret sauce, that needs to be copyrighted and protected. And so you need to do a quick audit of your current legal foundation. If you are unsure of where you're at, then that's, you need to dive in and get that fixed. So make sure that you hire a business attorney that's going to be able to do that review for you, because not all attorneys are created equal, just like all doctors are not created equal. We've talked about that before. And so you need to find one that's going to work best for you, which really is, we'll get to that in a second because it's another one of the takeaways here. But before that, lesson 4 is you need to make sure you play the long game, which means you're thinking with the end in mind. Whether you plan on selling your business or you want to keep doing what you're doing for the next 200 years, setting your business up to be sold is really key. And that planning that you can do earlier the better and easier it's going to be in the future. Because whether you think about it or not, if you might not, like I said, you might not think you want to sell your business. You might not even know that's even possible, but if you can get that set up, that is really going to help you to, one, be able to capitalize more on that sell, but also help leave you with a better legacy or make sure your business can continue to thrive even after you're gone. And you can start protecting your valuation of your business, your intellectual property, all of that by documenting and creating those systems early. And that's really key. And if you are listening to this and you're like, I have no idea what to do, that leads right into lesson 5, which I think is so important, is choosing the right legal counsel. So this is for number 3 and number 4. This is really key that you find the right legal counsel and other advisors for you. On your org chart, not that you are paying them all the time, but sometimes you might be, is there a spot for that legal counsel underneath wherever you need it to be in your business? Because you need to have the right, documents drawn up like we talked about to protect yourself, protect your property, set yourself up for sale for the future, but then also for taxes, for financials, for all those things. I know the power of that. I was able to just finish working with my tax attorney, and he made our tax situation much better than we thought it was going to be this year, which is great. And they're there to not just answer questions, but they understand your mission and your goals and really what you want to be able to achieve, because that's really important. I mean, just like, for instance, as a business owner, if you were trying to buy a house, you don't have a normal W-2 like someone else in most cases. And so you need to be able to have your tax attorney or tax firm, whoever you're using, be able to set your financial situation up correctly on the tax forms to make it easier for you to be able to buy a house. Just simple things like that. But that same thing will happen in the future and all different types of things. So definitely, if you don't have that attorney on your team that's going to cover those bases in those different areas, and getting a trust for your family and getting all those other documents set up, a will and all those things are so important too. So make sure you interview 2 or 3 attorneys. And even if you feel like you are happy with one you have, there's no reason why you can't look in more and see if you can add someone better to add someone more or better to your team to be able to help you do that. So ultimately, this is the big action step. This legal stuff, I know this is stuff that I don't like to do. I like the doctor stuff. I like the business growth stuff. But the legal stuff is really important because freedom comes from really building both a strong business, but a strong foundation to protect yourself legally. And then when you do that, then you can really create more freedom and set yourself up for a better foundation and confidence at home in your marriage, with your spouse, and with your kids. So if you found this helpful, share this episode with a fellow entrepreneur that you care about, and make sure you're subscribed to our channel, whether it's on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this podcast, so that you make sure that you're here for upcoming episodes, because we're diving in deeper into some more of these issues and how you can become a superhuman entrepreneur. If you're enjoying the podcast, help us reach more entrepreneurs like you by leaving a review. As a thank you, everyone who leaves a 5-star review will be entered into a drawing for some exciting prizes. We are here to help you more than just listen. Head over to superhumanentrepreneur.com, click on community, and join a powerful network of entrepreneurs that are striving to be their best. Each episode includes action steps, resources, and accountability to help you to implement these ideas and start seeing results.